Hello, dear colleagues. This is Brendan here. I'm going to talk you through what's happening with Grade 10 Project Week. And there are some big ideas here. And I will try and give you a bit of an idea of what you've got to do, what students are up to, and where we're headed with this. Now, just to recap, understand that students are creating a startup idea. Okay. These startup ideas are based around their service areas that they've been working on, whether it be education or whether it be the environment or sustainability. They have now experienced that for several weeks, and they've worked out that there are different needs and wants and desires and problems associated with trying to create change in those areas or work with people who are creating change in those areas. So we wanted to sort of press pause on that for Project Week and try and imagine what other ways we could support. What other innovative ways we could meet the needs of people that we're serving. And so what we've been doing in class is trying to expand the ways of creating ideas. So when we get to this point, it's going to be quite easy for students to come up with ideas that meet needs. So we have, your role in this is going to be, one, you actually have to be knowledgeable about how to assess what is a good idea, and I'm going to walk through that. And then I'll show you a little bit about the pitch. Students have to make a pitch for Friday, a 5-minute pitch, and there are some essential elements that they have to have as part of that. So I'm going to go through these two main things. So first one, how to get startup ideas. In preparation for Project Week, the students have had a little bit of time to watch this video from Y Combinator Startup School by Jared Freeman about how to get startup ideas. I'll jump down here. This is what they've been asked to do. They have been asked to sit down and write down individually the top 5 needs and wants and problems associated with their field. Through their experiences actually doing it, they're noticing things that they thought they would not be a problem are a problem. They're noticing that interactions aren't what they expected. All of these are reflective things that they're working on. They can use these things to come up with new ideas of how to bridge that gap. When they've identified the 5 needs, that I've asked them to do at least a couple of hours of market research to see how companies are meeting this need currently. Is there anyone meeting this need? And to have a look around and dig around to see what people are doing. That is really to expand their minds so they have more source material from which to come up with their own ideas, to borrow from good ideas that are already happening and give them their own twist. So I'm encouraging that a lot. 2 hours is just a figure I was giving them because they have a lot of things due right now. So in that, I want them to then select 2 areas that they feel they have a real sense that they can achieve something there. And then with those 2 ideas to come up with 10 solutions for each need, want, or problem. So they would have 20. Okay, so that's what they needed to do before Sunday. Now, what they had to do, so when they arrive on Sunday evening and we have our workshop, and I don't think you're going to be there, you're welcome to come if you want, they're going to have 5 good ideas. So they're going to have a way to take that 20 ideas and choose the best 5. So I'm going to tell you about this way, and this is actually important because you're going to have to do this on Monday. You're going to have to understand this concept here. Now, this is one way that Jared from Startup School assesses ideas, right? To evaluate ideas to see what might work. And there are just 4 areas to look through. And what he does is he looks at the scores, and whichever is higher, he just goes with it. There's no second doubts about it. If there's integrity in this process, just trust it. Now, they're going to use this process and be aware of it to get to 5. But when they hit the tables on Monday with you all, what they have to do is try and get down to 1 idea by lunchtime. So they're going to have to go through these again and again and again to try and refine what it is. The idea is that through this process, they're actually thinking about what is a good idea and how might you go with it. The second thing they're also doing is refining the talents and skills that they have so they can make a good presentation. So I'll take a breath. So let's have a look at these 4 things. Number 1 in evaluation, 1 to 10. how big is this idea and how big could it be? So in order to do this, they have to look at and just say, how widespread is this problem? I don't want to leave that so much to, I think it could be big. They'll need some data to sort of work out how big it could be. They'll need to do some research on that. So for example, one education group was saying when they go out to the schools, there is a little bit of social anxiety when they are first connecting with people. So they're looking at social anxiety in schools and collaborations in schools. So say if that's their area, how widespread is it in their experience at their school? How widespread do they think it is in Japan? How big is it in the world? And to be able to justify that in some way other than, I think it could be massive. If we look to businesses, you could also look at the idea that of something like electric cars, that's going to be very big. You jumped in at the right point. So that's the first one. I want you to try and coach them away from the idea that if they have a thought, it must be correct. Just ask how, and then maybe they'll hop on the computer and find some statistics there if they haven't already. Second thing is founder market fit, which sounds a bit fancy, but basically it is how qualified is your group to actually make this idea come true, this big idea that you're having. So for example, a student said, I'm really, the other day they said, I'm really interested in creating safe space for people to try drugs. And I went, okay, great. The question is, if you do something like that, how qualified are you to do that? And very reasonably, the student went, well, I'm not really qualified. So that ranks really low. That's the same question that some investor is going to ask you when you say, I have this great idea. They're going to say, why you? And if you can't answer that with the skills that you have in your team, then enthusiasm is not enough. So you have to be realistic and give that a grade, and that goes into it. The next one is, how sure are you that this is solving an acute problem? Again, this needs some degree of research. It can't just be a feeling. And it can't just be noticing that there is a problem. And that's where the market research should come in to be able to provide some kind of evidence. If there's not a lot of evidence, and you think there should be, and there could be, get the students to dig around and find some more. If you think it's not really addressing it, you can just be happy to give it a grade of 1 being terrible and 10 being absolutely brilliant. And the last one is, what makes you think you have a new insight into this idea? So what's the twist on this? What do you know? What does your group know as a group of young people that maybe I don't know as an old crusty teacher? What have they worked out? And it might be the insight they have by doing it. I think if you watch this video by Jared, he gives the example of Airbnb as a startup. And the idea of Airbnb was that people would come to your house and rent a blow-up bed. And the assumption was that they would steal your things and kill you in the night. But what it turned out, and the insight they got, is that it was a lot of fun and people enjoyed it a lot, and no one was stealing anything or doing anything crazy. And they only got that through the experience. So you have to sort of tease out and say, what is it that you know? What new insight do you have that perhaps the rest of the world doesn't know? So you give them overall scores, and that's what they're going to do. So they'll have experience with this. They'll have experience, and they should come to you on Monday in here for group work from 8:30 with 5 brilliant ideas. Okay. Then in this period of Monday morning up until lunch, you'll be running this with them, the idea quality scores, all the way through to the point where they come up with one single good idea. And I want to be part of that idea to make sure that, because I've been doing this for a little bit longer, and I'll be able to ensure that those ideas have integrity, and we'll all be working in a similar area. So come and grab me at any time if you need help with that. But please take the time to become aware of these scores. Have a listen to this video. I'll share the link, and it's pretty good. So up until that point, that's what the role is. After that role, I am doing a presentation on creating a pitch deck. So that can all be found on this tab here. Oh wait, my mistake here. Pitch. Okay, pitching your idea. Now, this is one that you might be more familiar with and happier to facilitate because it's a presentation, really. To go over this, there are some essential things that a pitch should have, and I've got some resources here for students that I'm going to show and talk through. I've got, there's a deeper dive into here, how to pitch your startup. There are some templates that I've downloaded that look pretty cool, instructions, and some examples of what good pitches look like. We have a presentation order for Friday, as you know. Students by Thursday night are going to put all their slides plus a rough draft of their presentation into this folder. But let's have a look quickly at the overview itself. It's 5 minutes maximum. It's to include all of these things. And the reason why it is including all of these things is not just because that's accurate for a pitch. It's because the people at the end on Friday, the expert panel, are going to be looking for these things. And we wanted to provide a consistency of framework so that it's easy for them. Having said that, within this framework, students can also be very creative and display things in their own way to capture imagination and to tell their story. So, things that must be included is a cover slide to introduce the brand. A problem slide, what challenge did you identify? The solution, the actual product, and what it is and how it works. The unique features of that product, why is this unique and interesting? Some sort of market validation, so going back to the evaluation, how big is this market that we're talking about? When it comes to business model and growth, the real question, the question that they're going to ask is, how is this going to make money? How are you going to make this sustainable idea so you can grow it? So students do have to have a bit of an idea of what they actually need. You know, could this make money so it can indeed be sustainable? Students are quite used to the idea of handouts. So the actual concept of how to make money is a tricky one. So we'll just have to work with them and see what we can come up with. It may initially be a handout to get some money, so to do some more research. It could also be advertising revenue. You know, it could be, I don't know, it depends on the nature of what product they come up with. It could be selling sponsorship. It could be some other sort of fundraising model. But you have to put some thought into that, even if it's not fully developed. The thought has to be there, because that will be a question. At what stages do you need to go through to grow? So if they're in an establishment phase or they're in a phase where they need funding, they need to sort of describe that. Team, who is in the team and what makes them uniquely qualified or competent for the difficulties ahead? This goes back to this idea of founder and fit. So hopefully your students have addressed why they're qualified, what their unique ability is to meet this challenge and to come up with this thing. This is where we'll actually move away a little bit from, they'll come up with apps and things like this. They're going to have to find a way to recognize their limitations and find ways to actually include people in their movement that they need to be able to say that their team is well qualified to produce this product. And then the last slide is the ask. What are they asking for? So at this point in a startup, they don't necessarily need to be saying, we need $100 million. They might say, we're actually at the beginning of this, and what we're looking for are investors to help us go to Upwork and find more data on different markets for this product. What we need to do is to attract some engineers who can work on an app. And so what we're asking for is this amount of money to get some students in joining with us. What we're asking for is, we know we're not ready yet, but we'd like some more mentorship so we can move this idea. We think it's a good idea, but we need advice from wise people about how to do this. There has to be some sort of ask there, and that will depend on what they come up with. So it's very hard to work out what that is. But without an ask, it's just a nice presentation. And then some sort of closing slide. Now, in a nutshell, that's it. How that plays out is you're going to be available, as we discussed last week, at these particular times for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And also present for the presentation at the end here. Now, what's going to happen is students have their purpose finding. Not all students may be available at this point to do it, okay? But you will have some students, and we'll get a list of the students that are definitely going to be there. The idea is to meet them in the KAC and really workshop, really push them to create these presentations. Without a push, I doubt it will come together. So if you get one or two people here, they might create the skeleton of what it is. They will know what is due. They will know what is coming very clearly. And they'll have to organize themselves to hit the deadline of Thursday night and then the practice for Friday. I'd suggest that everything would be done by Wednesday, and by Thursday in this time, there would be real rehearsal going on. Okay? And it's okay to push them for that. I actually don't really want a situation where they are... where your hands off and saying, yeah, work it out, don't work it out, it's fine. We actually do want to create a good quality product, so we are being interventionist at this point and using all our skill as teachers to give them this experience to build the skill to do a really good pitch. Okay, so all hands on deck to make that something wonderful. The full expression of this is going to be on Friday. I think it's going to be great. We're going to record it. Dean's going to be there and help us out with that. We've got an expert panel coming in, and Azumi will tell you more about that later. I do recommend to become aware, to watch this video, a little bit of where the students are at. It's going to take about 15 minutes. And then to help them with their pitch, you could come in passive and look at the presentation with the students. But it's also not a bad idea to watch. This is like a 5-minute video. This one is longer. To watch a little bit of this so you can provide that sort of support that they're going to need. And I realize and I accept that this whole pitch business is out of most people's comfort zone. So if you have any questions at any time, come and see me or Azumi. Actually, I'm going to be around the whole time, so I can come and see you. Thank you for your help. I'll leave it at that. That's as quick as I could do this. If you invest a little bit of time between now and then, it's going to sit more comfortably with you as you help the students out. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.